Philip Morris Malaysia has redesigned its ESG framework to address the two main issues facing it, one related to its product and the other to its business operations. We sit down with Managing Director Naeem Shahab Khan about the company's evolution as it targets a smokeless future. All tobacco players in the world are doing some intense soul searching at the moment, and all of them are aiming towards this smokeless future. And Philip Morris has decided to do so by overhauling their ESG framework. But can you elaborate how this was actually done?
You know, the challenge for any tobacco company in the world is how do we as a tobacco company, manage the inevitable externalities and challenges of a tobacco smoking. If we can manage that, that probably would create the most sustainable business for any of the company, in general. For Philip Morris, I think we are quite lucky. We started this whole journey way before when ESG is becoming the cornerstone of the business world. 10, 12, 15 years ago, we decided that as a company, for us, it is imperative to manage all the negative effects of cigarette smoking, and hence we started investing on products and solutions and everything which help us to kind of curb that whole
aspect of
the thing. The whole ESG angle is pretty imperative for our business. So we have created two major platforms for our ESG strategy. One is around the product. So anything and everything which we do around the product, which is basically the innovation around the product, which is the type of product, the material we use, the type of behavior you get by smoking.
You get into the weeds about
exactly
the very details.
And the other part is the operational angle. How much water you use, how do you manufacture your products, etc. So these are the two major pillars, and we have about 4 initiatives in one pillar and 4 initiatives in another pillar. And those 4 initiatives are primarily driven to drive innovation, to drive a smoke-free culture, and to drive portfolio and the products which helps us to make Malaysia and a world a smoke-free world.
Speaking of innovation is something that not a lot of people think about when they think about tobacco companies, because tobacco companies are really old. The ones in the world are very, very, they've been around for ages. So what strides has Philip Morris made in terms of innovation over the past few years or so?
If we do not change as a manufacturer and as a tobacco company, I don't think there's a future for any of us. Science is the forefront of all of that. For example, we have our product, Ethos, and Ethos actually gives you nicotine not by combusting or burning tobacco, but by heating it. And to heat tobacco, it requires a very sophisticated precision engineering technology. We always tell people not to start smoking. We always tell people that if you currently smoke, please don't quit. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. But if you don't want to quit, at least go towards an alternative products which are based on science, which are based on data, which are based on technology, and which can help you drive away from all the harmful effects of the combustible cigarettes.
Of course, you mentioned that was the innovation, that was the product side, that was the consumer-centric side. But of course, the other thing that a lot of companies have to think about these days is the people to get to that end product. So worker retention, productivity is something that has changed so much, the face of it post the pandemic. So in this age of hybrid work, what has Philip Morris done to adapt to it? Or, as you were mentioning, it was things you already planted years ago. So what have you done in that sense to keep the workers happy?
As a company, we were probably one of the very few companies which started a 4.5-day work week in Malaysia. And that was back in 2017, early 2018. And then pandemic hit and gone were the 9 to 5 days. Post-pandemic, we started this thing called smart work. And smart work is basically making sure that we have a right balance of flexibility and productivity together.
Yes.
So we have 3 days in office principle, out of which 2 days are mandatory, which is Tuesday and Wednesdays, and then you can choose Monday or Thursday as one of the day depending on your family situation.
Yes.
And what we are seeing after almost a year in that journey is, number one, it requires a better planning, from an employee side as well. It requires a little bit of understanding that there is a trust which has been built between employee and employer, and that trust does not have to be breached. And more importantly, we don't see a productivity loss. We actually see a productivity increase.
When you talked about the new generation that kind of come in, the other thing that's very important to them is the almost ethos and the soul of the company itself. So we are looking at things, so they look at things like equality, gender diversity is very, very important to a lot of people. And this kind of change needs to come from bottom to top. So what has Philip Morris done to address this? Because you mentioned, right, so changes take a lot of commitment.
Yeah.
Changes like this take management level commitment. So what has Philip Morris done?
We are kind of making sure that the excel is the inclusion part of it.
Yes.
And that's, for me, is the core. Because if you can bring in diverse workforce, or people with a different skill set, or people with different race or religion or color or lifestyle choices,
yes.
right? If they don't feel that they have a say in that organization, they can be who they want to be, they can express themselves the way they want to express themselves, then this diversity part is not necessarily give you the right level of tailwind. So the most important for us as an organization is, together with diversity, the inclusion. They should feel at home, they should feel at ease, they should be who they are.
The main criticism now that ESG is a buzzword, and you've had a lot of thought leaders saying that, look, we don't like calling it a buzzword because it should be part of you anyway, is that a lot of companies have now been accused of greenwashing. It's just adopting, it's just lip service, which is not new. A lot of companies have done this when the issue of the environment has always come up. So how does Philip Morris ensure that you don't get that particular criticism?
As an organization, we are lucky because our fundamental business is all about sustainability. I mean, to be very frank, if we are selling only cigarettes, it's a more challenging question. But I think as our business, as our vision and a mission as an organization is to create a smoke-free world, by default, that means sustainability for us, which means that our entire vision demands us to be sustainably, not from a greenwashing angle, but from an angle of actual stuff which can make a difference in a smoker's life.